The last section of this lecture is titled Japan and the Wider World, and will focus for the sake of time on the relations between Japan and Africa, Japan and Europe, and on how Japan navigates the multilateral system. First, Africa. Africa remains a distant partner for Japan. Tokyo has been active on the continent, mainly through its official development assistance. Africa represents around 15% of Japan's total ODA, which is traditionally focused on the Asian area. In 1993, the TICAD, the Tokyo International Conference on African Development, was set up. This Japan-Africa Summit was actually a visionary move from Japan at a time when other donors felt ODA fatigue and tended to retreat from Africa. The TICAD has been the main vehicle to drive the economic cooperation with Africa. Since 2013, the government of Japan has strived to gradually complement and replace part of its ODA by private investment. The objective is to secure sources of raw materials and also to take advantage of this new consumer market. However, the Japanese companies have been quite cautious to invest in a continent that is still not well known and is seen by many as risky. One diplomatic objective of this long-time economic cooperation with Africa is to gain the support of African countries for Japan's quest to become a permanent member of the UN Security Council. And we will see the details later on in this course. Japan's security cooperation in Africa has been growing more recently, and the Japanese self-defense forces has been actively patrolling in the Gulf of Aden to combat piracy. The facility was also built up in Djibouti back in 2011. It is the first overseas military facility for Japan in the post-war era. Finally, Prime Minister Abe disclosed his free and open Pacific vision in Nairobi during the first TICAD summit on the African continent in 2016. Therefore, with this speech, it also included Africa into Japan's strategic visions and interests. Second, Europe. Europe has also been a quite distant partner for Japan until recently. The relations have been marked by economy and trade, Japan becoming in the 70s the third pole of what was called the World Economic Triad, the US and Europe being the two other poles. In 2001, the EU-Japan Plan of Action set up a long list of areas for cooperation, also in the political domain. But this broad framework did not actually deliver. There has been a strong acceleration in the relations since 2017. The two partners realized that they shared many commonalities: democratic and liberal values, support for the rule of law, multilateralism, and the free trade system. As the liberal international order has been challenged in recent years by the rise of China, but also by a wave of protectionism and populism symbolized by the Brexit and the election of Donald Trump in the US, Japan and the EU realized that they needed to act at a global level to shape norms and protect multilateral solutions. In 2018, the Economic Partnership Agreement, EPA, and the Strategic Partnership Agreement, SPA, were signed. While the EPA became the largest free trade agreement in the world, covering 1/3 of the world GDP, it was also meant to become a benchmark in terms of norms and standards for trade, labor, environment, and so on. The idea was to write the rules to shape China and the US behaviors. The SPA provides a platform for the partners to promote their values and principles on the international stage. In 2019, the Partnership on Sustainable Connectivity and Quality Infrastructure creates a synergy between Japanese free and open Indo-Pacific vision and the EU connectivity strategy. And it is designed as being an alternative to Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. Japan and the EU today stand as strategic partners to support the liberal international order. Finally, one of the core characteristics of Japanese foreign policy is a search for an international recognition of Japan's status as a great power. As the Japanese constitution put it, the overall objective is to have an honored place in the international society. In this perspective, the United Nations have had a central role in Japan's diplomacy, and Japan has contributed significantly to the UN budget. Being a permanent member of the UN Security Council is seen in Japan as the ultimate recognition of a great power status. Tokyo has thus long advocated the reform of the UN Security Council to allow for additional seats for itself, as well as for Germany, India, and Brazil. These 4 countries work together in this direction, and they have called themselves the J4. Japan is also active in other settings. One important step was in 1975, the creation of the G7, to which it took part. It was very significant for Tokyo, as it became a full member in this club of the most economically powerful nations in the world. Today, Japan presents itself as a champion of the liberal multilateral world order. For Tokyo, the maintenance of the liberal international order is key to ensure its survival, as China's influence is growing on the international stage. So this was the last installment of this lecture on Japanese foreign policy since the post-war, in the post-war area. I thank you all for your kind attention, and I hope that you enjoy this lecture.